As of today, there are 9 million active developers. The programming language which has most largest developer community and frameworks. The language which was developed 26 years ago for TV set-top box and rules client server application development world even today in various industries like banking, e-commerce, healthcare and mobile application etc. The language which made everyone to learn object oriented programming concept, design patterns and industry standards and many more. Welcome back to TechNugget channel. Yet another interesting mini video series on Jumpstart Java for modern app development. Let's dive in. Java is well known for its legacy client server, sometimes as monolith application. How does this helps in modern app development? What is a typical modern app architecture? Mostly microservices and containers, and sometimes serverless architecture. When we talk about microservices, we are talking about polyglot microservice, meaning that the microservice can be developed in any language. It can be developed either Python, Java, Go, or maybe Node.js, whatever the language. However, it should have concise, well-defined interface, and it should be able to containerized like a Docker, typical container architecture, right? And another important point to be considered, the language should offer a good security. Perfect. Java fits in. And this is a three-part video series. Part 1 will cover the basics. So what are the topics are we going to cover today? Brief history of Java, the engine which runs Java, that's JVM, and also the architecture of JVM, and basic structure of a Java program, and basic language constructs like classes, objects, and basic looping construct like while and do while, for and enhanced for, and also some conditional statement like if else and switch. Since it's a basic, we'll surface at the base level to get started. On Java history, I don't want to go into the boring all the details of the history. However, let me give a glimpse on what exactly when it started, right? So, what is Java? Um, Java is a general purpose, high level class based, object oriented programming language which promoted programmers write once, run anywhere. That was one of the powerful concepts during 1995 and 96. Because any other language, typically you take other language like C++ during that time, it's a platform specific. You need to um, redo the coding for the other platform. So this syntax is similar to C, C++. However, there are low level details are abstracted. When I talk about low level details, if anyone comes from C and C++ background, we all know very well that there is a pointers nightmare which is used for memory allocation and deallocation. It's like a double-edged sword, right? If you use it properly, you handle it very well and your program will run uh, highly efficient and performant. If you miss a certain point, it's going to bleed somewhere else because of the memory management. Okay, so these low level details are abstracted Java. So this is one of the another marketing factor during 1995 because Java introduced something called garbage collector where you don't have to manage memory management. The language itself can do that, right? So the Java was originally developed by James Gosling at Sun Microsystems and released in 1995. The first version of JDK, that's a JDK 1.0, was released in Jan 23rd, 1996. So what is the latest version we have today? As of today, we have like Java 17 LTS. That's the latest version. JDK 18 is in pre-release. So during the Java development time, the typical confusion on what is JDK and what is JRE. So JDK is Java Development Kit, which consists of JVM, class libraries, compiler, debugger, Javadoc, and key tool. There are much more tools along with that. That's the entire suite is called JDK. However, in that there is a subset JVM and class libraries. Alone, if you put it together, that will become a runtime environment. So in the typical scenario, when we are developing, we'll use a JDK because you need a compiler. It's actually Java C, and if you want to run it, you need to have a JVM, that's a JRE, as a Java command. So what are the Java platform editions available? Java Cards is for smart cards, Java Platform Micro Edition, this for handheld devices and mobile devices, Java Platform Standard Edition, it's targeted for workstation environments, and the last one, not the least, Java Platform Enterprise Edition, targeted for large distributed enterprise application or internet environment applications. Now let us understand about JVM architecture, where the Java program executes, right? The engine, the core engine of the language. The typically you can read this from top to bottom. So your typical program is loaded by class loader into JVM memory in method area. Okay, your source code is completely comes to your method area, and local variables and partial results are stored in stack, and the heap is the runtime data area. This is the place for your class instances and arrays. So the execution engine like access the JVM memory and executes the code, and along with that you have other thing like a native method interface and native method libraries, also native method stack. So this native method is basically the code which is written non-Java codes. So typically it will be C or C++. So this is how your any Java program runs within the JVM. Let us understand Java language data types, the basic data types. So typically Java data types consist of primitive and non-primitive. Primitive data type consists of integer, floating point, boolean, character. Under integer we have int, short, byte, long. Under floating point we have float and double. Boolean consists of boolean, and characters are char. That's a Unicode character. So if you on the non-primitive side, we have string, array, classes, and objects. Those are all under non-primitive because those are all a special kind. It doesn't fall under the basic one, right? So if you notice the names which I mentioned here is a capital I for example int, short, byte, long. So this Java has something called wrapper classes. So the primitive will be wrapped with the object class. Okay, so where it will be useful, there are, for example, you have an object which returns an object integer. Okay, so that time what happens is automatically that has to be wrapped, and it has to be boxed and unboxed. When you say boxed, the the, the primitive value of int will be wrapped inside inside an object and sent it to another object or assigned to another primitive. It's a vice versa, boxing and unboxing. That's another good feature on Java. So this is not the extensive list of all the data types. It's a just a basic subset. The other remaining data types we'll see in the subsequent video series. Since Java is object-oriented programming language, let us uh, understand in a surface level of OOPS concept, right? So we have a class is your blueprint for any other object. The object is instantiated from a class, and we have encapsulation. The encapsulation denotes that you encapsulate data as well method. For example, the typical class consists of variables, that's a member variables, and also methods. Methods will operate on the variable, and it is completely encapsulated within that particular class or object. The next one, we have abstraction. Abstraction is basically used to create a super class with the abstract method, and then further when you extend it, you are going to give the implementation, or you are going to give the full implementation for the abstract method. And we have inheritance. Inheritance is basically you are going to inherit from parent to child. You will have a parent class, so those methods will be inherited into child class for reusability. Then we have polymorphism. The in OOPS world, polymorphism says that the capable of taking many forms. Okay, so then we have aggregation and we have composition. So this is not the extensive list on OOPS. OOPS itself will be a complete video series it can go. However, these are the high level concept which we need to understand in order to get Java started and going. So this we will cover as we code it. We will cover this concept. Now let us understand a basic structure of a typical Java program. A typical Java program consists of a parent package, and it can have a sub package as a child package, and also it can consist of a class and object. It is instantiated form of any other dependent class or its own class. And this particular package on its own package, it can have any number of dependent child packages. Any application programming language or any application development will be more productive only if you have integrated development environment, that's like IDE. Okay, for Java we have a lot of IDEs as such. However, I'm listing out some of the major IDEs. IntelliJ, the first one, and Eclipse, Visual Studio Code, that's a recent addition. It's adding a lot of support for Java, and Apache NetBeans. So these are the major predominant IDE which used to develop Java. So the typical role of an IDE, so we all know, right, when code completion, formatting, there are some mundane tasks which really IDE helps compiling and running also. So for this video walkthrough, I'll be using IntelliJ Community Edition. However, I'm not limited. I like other editors too, but however, I'm going to use this one. If needed, I can show the installation of other things. How do we configure? Let's move on to the last piece of the puzzle, installation part. We have two choice, and when it comes to Java, we have Oracle Java, other one is OpenJDK, right? So I'm going to choose Oracle Java. I'll tell you the reason why while I'm installing Oracle Java 17, especially on 17 version. And we are not limited to any other edition too. For example, we can use either OpenJDK or Java 17. More or less both are same. Only thing is OpenJDK is the same code what Java or Oracle uses, however it's open sourced. Only thing without commercial grade support. Okay. For IDE, as I mentioned, I'll be using IntelliJ IDE Community Edition. I'll leave the links for all this software where we can download. Let's get started on the installation part. Let us take a look at how do we install Java 17. The first thing what we do here is we are going to choose Oracle Java 17. So go to our Java downloads by Oracle. So one good thing about Java 17, that's the latest version. So this made most of the Java users to come back. Mostly it'll make them to come back to Java. This is a recent announcement. If you look at this announcement, Java 17 LTS, that's a long-term support release, and JDK 17 binaries are free to use in production and free to redistribute at no cost. So this really makes us easy to use Java 17 without any commercial problem, because this is one of the recent announcement. After JDK 17 there was a commercial announcement happened. It was free to use for personal use, however in production you need to have a commercial license. Okay, let's go ahead and take the required version. For we have three variants: Linux, Mac OS and Windows. I'm going to choose Windows because my OS is Windows. In this we have three versions. One is the zip archive, another one is x64 installer, other one is x64 MSI installer. I'm going to take the x64 installer. Let's download this. It should take a couple of seconds, about 15 seconds. Once we have downloaded it, we need to install this into either user space or the system space, right? After you click the exe file, you are going to get this installation dialog box. I'll say next. It chooses which location to use. I would prefer to use this location to C:/JDK 17.0.1. I don't want to go under program files. The reason being, to set this path variable should be easy. We don't want to have any spaces or any other special characters. Let's change this back. C drive. I'll say JDK 17 underscore 0 underscore 1 underscore 1. Let's choose this. So it should be done in a couple of minutes. So this speed depends on your system and the memory. Okay, so we have done it. The next step is, after the installation, the verification of the installation. So open command prompt. Let's check the version. Java minus version. We should be able to see Java 17, and also let us see Java C hyphen version. Yeah, that's it. So the installation is successful. Let's proceed with the next step. Now let us take a look at how do we install IntelliJ IDE. First thing, go to Google, click on IntelliJ IDE, IDEA, click on the first one, it's a JetBrains. Then go to download. There are two versions, one is Ultimate, other one is Community. The Ultimate contains much more feature other than Java, Kotlin, till debugger. Then it has got Spring, Java EE, Jakarta EE, much more. We really may not need all this. Let's go ahead with the Community Edition. Click on download. Let's download this. It's 557 MB. Okay, once it downloads, we'll get back. So it's downloaded. Let's go ahead and double click that file. Click yes. Next, and let's take the default path, that is a program files. It's a 64-bit and space required is 2.1 GB. And let's create desktop, and let's do the association for Java file if you have in future Groovy, and add path to bin, and open folder as a project. So next, so started installing. It should take a couple of minutes. So once this installation is over, we'll get back to you. Let's pause the recording now.
A few inches later.
Now the installation complete. Either you want to reboot now or you want to reboot manually later. Let's choose reboot manually later. So finish. It's done. Now let us configure the IntelliJ IDE. Double click on the installed icon. Usually it's on your desktop. Okay, so you have a choice of creating a new project or opening the existing one. Let's say new project. When you click on this new project, there are some settings which we have to do, where you have to select this project SDK. So already I have Oracle Java 17 as another step which I mentioned, 17 install. I can choose. Otherwise it has an option like where you have a download JDK and add JDK. Let us choose what we have. Click on next. So create a project from template. We don't have a template. Let's say YT projects. Okay, so finish. Okay, you are good to go. Congratulations, we have installed IntelliJ IDE and configured, ready to use. Okay, enough of talk. Let's do the coding. Let's get our hands dirty. So what I'll be covering in this coding will be class, object, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance through the basic constructs like basic start with hello world. Then we have if else, switch, do while, for loop, and while doing that I may show parent child relationship and an abstract class, few more classes example. Okay, so enough for PPTs. Let's get into IntelliJ IDE. Let's start coding. Before we enjoy the luxury of an IDE, let us code the hello world program using one of the poor man's editor called Notepad, and use the command line to compile and execute the Java program to understand the entire process. Let's get started by hand coding. Okay, go ahead. First thing, for first and foremost, comment, single line comment. What would be my class name, right? Say hello.java. This is just a comment. While saving, I'm going to use the same name. Now I will mention the package name. Means where does this hello will reside, right? Package, say hello. In Java, every statement should terminate with semicolon. Okay, let me comment this itself. Package name, then we have a class name. So what we have mentioned earlier, hello.java, right? So this is supposed to be a public class. Public class hello. So class will start with a curly brace, and every class should have one public static main. That's because that's one of the important method which JVM looks for in any class. If the class is executable, if you don't have a main method, it will not execute. The program is not an executable program. It cannot be invoked from JVM. However, it can be called from other program by other methods by instantiating an object of that same class. Now let's make a static main method. I'll say main method. Let's talk about this accessor like public protected later. Now let's code this. Public static void main string args. This is the method signature which Java expects. Let's do it. So now we would like to print this as a hello world. So what are the methods we have? There is a system library called system, out, and in. So we are going to use out. System.out.println, say hello world, say 2021, and it should terminate with ending curly brace, that is end of the method, and another curly brace, end of the class, end of the class. Okay, let's go ahead and save this file. This is supposed to be saved as what? We have hello.java and the package called hello, right? So the path where I'm going to do, I will show you in a minute. So it's not a text file, it's supposed to be a Java file. The name would be hello.java, right? So As I said, there's a simple editor. It's a poor man's editor, poor man's choice, without any, just bare bone editor. Now, where this file is located, if you recall in one of our while we are setting up the IntelliJ IDE, we created a sample project called YT projects. That is where this will reside into. So every Java project have a standard structure called SRC, classes, lib. So SRC is your source, and classes will be the output generated. Lib will be the library supporting jars or the jar which you want to produce. Now let us directory. Okay, so you find src cd src. Okay, you may find hello here. Ideally, I have practiced, I have tested this program earlier, that's why there is a hello, otherwise this directory won't be there. Okay, now let's go ahead and list this files what we have. Hello.java. So what is a command to compile a Java program? Okay, let's show you this command, java c. First I'll show you what are the help you have. Right, there are a lot more arguments which you will eventually learn one by one, but for to start with hello world, let's go ahead and say java c. It's a compiler, minus d in the sense where my output to be created, because once I compile this Java file, this will create a .class file. This is supposed to be stored somewhere outside. Eventually you don't want to store this as part of source, because those class files are all binary files. It's supposed to be outside of the source, right? Source is always, you can keep a maintain clean source as a simple only Java files. Say we want to keep it outside, not the current, to the parent directory. That means it will go under YT projects. Okay, now name of the Java file, that is hello.java. You have done, it's compiled. So how do I look at that? Cd dot dir. You should look at this hello directory. Let's go back. Cd hello dir. You can find hello class. Okay, the way of executing this, you should not be sitting inside and executing out this. You should come out of it. Now I want to execute at this place. Okay, so command to execute Java is just java. Just let's see if you would like to have any help. This is a command -help, so we do not know. Let's go ahead and execute this program. Java. The way you execute, you have to mention the class path, because in Java everything have to be referred by its class path. Let's say -cp dot, in the sense in the current, it will start searching this class path in the current directory. Then say hello, that's a package name. Then say hello.hello. Voila, you got first bare coded program which prints out hello world 2021 with a simple notepad and command line. So this is the process, right? First you edit a file, you compile it using Java C and run it using Java. So you will maintain the class path wherever you edit it. The reason being, everything is referenced as a class. Okay, let's go back to this again. Let's try to make a mistake and say it's a deliberate, right? Let's see now again, cd src on java c minus d dot hello dot java. Got it? There is an error, expected semicolon. Perfect. It's telling there is a syntax error at line number 10. Line number 10, how do I locate? Since I said it's a poor man editor, Notepad cannot display line number. So either I do manually check like 1, 2, 3, go ahead and check one by one and look for it. This is where we wish we should have an IDE. Then anyway, we'll enjoy that later. Now let's see, right? And another thing, this package is the current package, and also you would have noticed there is no any other imports. Ideally the first statement will be imports. I don't have any imports here. The reason is every Java class by default it imports from java.lang.star and object. It extends object, it imports the default libraries, so you don't need anything special until unless you use some special object like date or any other thing. For example, here we use simple default statement, so we don't need. Okay, and also on the package name, it's not mandatory that you need to have a package, but it's a good practice to have a package name. Otherwise what happens, it will go into the default package, so referencing will be an issue, so most of the files will be cluttered. The idea of a package is to have a logical separation and logical grouping of all of your classes put together as a separate packages. And the historically the package name used to have something like this, com dot say kmr dot hello. Why? The reason was the history of a Java starts from 1996. That's booming of internet era. Most of the package name used to have the classes with .com, .org, all that, right? Anyway, we have a flexibility. Anything if you want to keep it. For example, if this particular class is created for e-commerce, ideally you will try to have this hierarchy. So that's a flexibility it gives, right? Let's keep it back at as simple as hello. Save it. Anything else we can see in this? No, this is good enough for the basic bare hand coded Java. Okay, let's move with IDE with much more understanding of object and classes. Let's see in the next with the IDE video, right? So we had seen how do we develop a simple code with bare minimum editor, and also understood the process of compiling and running a Java file. And also we had seen how difficult to fix an error if it happens, given that if the source code has few hundred lines of code, then the complexity increases much more, right? Now let us enjoy the benefit of an IDE. As we code, we will see the benefits. In this coding, I will cover the basic OOPS concepts of encapsulation, inheritance, and abstraction. For this scenario, let us create a class called EMP. Okay, let's go ahead and create it. So how do we create this? Go to source, create. The first thing we need, as I mentioned, the better practice is the package. Let's say EMP. Then inside this, let's create a new Java class called EMP. Okay, so this is the magic of an IDE. You created, there is a boilerplate code, created package EMP and created a class name. Okay, let's go ahead and create the name, private, say full name, private string full name, right? So this is accessor. For example, the class or the method or an instance variable. For example, here is an instance variable. It can have, there is a three type of access modifiers. Public is public to the outside the package, and if it is a private, this member or instance variable, say I'll call it as a member or instance variable. Okay, this is private, and it is accessible only within the CMB class. So this is the best practice to do, because we don't want to expose this member outside if someone accidentally modifies it. So in order to do that, what do we do? Once you make it as a private, we need to create some public methods to get and set. Okay, let's go ahead and create that. Say public void. Now before we go there, as I mentioned, so the private is within this class, it's our, there is no access outside, and there is one more class, one more accessor called protected. The meaning of the protected is this particular variable or the class or the member accessible within the package. For example, the private is within the class if it is a protected within the package, if it is public outside the package. So that is the access modifiers pretty much we use. Let's go ahead and create two public methods for set and get for this full name. Okay, public void, because while setting you're not going to return anything. Set full name, and you take an argument called full name. So this represents the current instance. For example, this particular class, right? This dot full name equal to set this to the full name. Excuse me. This is some setter method. Let's do the getter method. This will be public string get full name. You are not going to take any argument, and you are going to simply return full name. Okay, so we created a instance variable, and we also created the public member to access this private member, public method to access the private member. This concept of packing your private member and exposing the public method is actually the basic concept of encapsulation. Okay, so you are not having any access without having the proper public method. And also every class should have something called constructor. The purpose of the constructor is when you create a new class or new object, so that is the first method which calls. If you are doing any of the initialization process, that can be done at the constructor level. Okay, so first thing, let's go ahead and create default constructor. What do you mean by default constructor? The constructor which doesn't take any parameter, with means it's an org. Okay, so the constructor, how does constructor name goes? Public emp, and this will not return anything. Okay, it is signifies just a class name, and for here will print, we'll see how where it is called, right? Say emp default constructor called. Okay, that's one. Another constructor called parameterized constructor. For example, I don't want to use the setter and getter directly while creating this class. I can set this. Okay, that is your parameterized constructor. Say parameterized constructor say public emp, then you take all the required argument, right? String full name, and set the full name to the instance variable. Since instance variable is a private, that can be accessed from the constructor, and any of the variable in this class that will be accessible by constructor, because that's a first root of your object, root of your class, and you will be able to access any of the methods, any of the member variables, irrespective of the access modifier, right? So this dot full name equal to full name. Okay, so what we have done, we have created an instance variable, we made a public getter and setter, and we created a constructor, and one more thing is left. So whenever you wanted to print this class, I can, in fact I can call one of the individual methods. Otherwise there is a one method, every method will have something called toString. So this will return the current object information. Let's go ahead and implement toString method. Okay, so this toString method is something special because by default you take any class, it implicitly extends an object, because object has method called toString, and you are going to override that method to put your detail. So that is where you have this override annotation. Okay, so we have done this. We'll name this as a parent class. Okay, so we wanted to cover inheritance as well abstraction, right? So in order to do the inheritance, there are two classes required. One is a parent class and other one is a child class. So the child class inherits the properties of the parents. So in Java we have it supported only single inheritance. There is no multiple inheritance support in Java. However, multi-level inheritance is there. Any point of time it can inherit only one parent. Okay, let's go ahead and create another employee called say this is an employee, right? Let's create a contract employee as a another child class, right? Say class if you notice, I'm just making as a class because this particular file emp is a public class. Other classes can be at the default level, so it can be residing on the same file. Class say contract emp extends, that is a keyword to extend a class, extends emp. So you, by this time you would have noticed my coding is much faster than what we have done in Notepad. The reason is there are some shortcuts, and also there are some auto completion. So let's make this as a child class. Okay, so as soon as when I extend, my full name is always there. I'm going to add only the additional parameters. For example, if it's a contract employee, he will have hourly charge, maybe hourly wages, right? Say private double hourly rate. Okay, and another one, private int number of hours. So in Java, the variable naming convention is camel case, so please follow that. However, the class names will start with capital, variable names will be camel case, method name also camel case. Okay, so now I'll show you another good feature on editor. I don't have to do all this getter, setter, toString. Let me go ahead and generate this code for you. Okay, go ahead and say generate, say getter, setter, select these two, done. Let's complete this in less than 1 minute. Okay, say generate toString. What do you want to show? We want to show this. Okay, in this you have done, it's less than 1 minute. There is one thing is pending. For example, when I say contract employee extends employee, we have only this method. We are missing is a constructor. Let's do that. Okay, constructor with param, right? With param. Okay, so public contract emp string full name and double hourly rate int okay. So what do we do with this full name? Full name is supposed to set at the parent level because you have to have this full name also. How do we set this in the constructor? We do something called super dot set full name. So that is the power of extending. It shows set dot full name, super dot set full name. So let's do the full name, then let's set this to hourly rate, this dot number of hours. Okay, we are done with the constructors. And another thing, in the toString you see contract emp and it's give only this property. It is not showing any of the parent property. How do we add that? Go ahead and add something called full name equal to plus super dot get full name plus. Okay, now here make it this way. So now this is complete. Now what we did, we created a parent class and we created a child class which extends a parent. Let us create another child class called permanent employee. Okay, let's go ahead and create class, say permanent emp extends emp. Okay, so permanent employee class is a permanent employee, so you'll not have hourly charge. However, you'll have something called salary. So a private double salary, private int number of working days, Let's create getter setter. Let's do the constructor first. Constructor with arguments or parameter, whatever we call. Again, this employee also should have a name, so go ahead and create that. Public employee, take 3 argument, string full name, double salary, int number of working days. Go ahead and set this super dot set full name, there is no super. Let's go ahead and this dot salary equal to salary, this dot num equal to, right? So that's done. Now let's generate getter setter and toString. Okay, it should be less than 30 seconds work. Go ahead and create getter setter. And also generate toString. And as we did the earlier, let us modify this toString also, called full name equal to plus super dot get full name, and the code is complete. Okay, let's go ahead and create 3 employees and see how it behaves. Okay, so what we have done here is we created a parent class, created 2 child class, its inheritance. Okay, now let's go back and create a main method. It can be in any of the class, or I'll put it here. Okay, so if you have noticed, I did not enter the entire statement. This is some of the editor gives a lot of flexibility, just like a macro psvm. If we do, it's actually public static void main. It saves a lot of keystrokes, right? And then also shout, that is system out println main method. Okay, what we wanted to, just to show that I did, let's create 3 object. This object creation, for example, I want to create at the parent level right now. So parent is a concrete class as of now. Okay, let's emp1 new emp. You need to have full name, say John. Okay, and I want to create one contract employee cemp new contract employee, say Joe. And if you see here, there is a marker. It gives you what is the parameter name there, indicated parameter. It is quite visually aided when you could when you are coding actually what parameter you are passing it. Actually, when you use any other editor like a notepad or anything, you directly pass it. That's a placement, and it indicates what is the variable name in that corresponding location. Okay, now we have hourly rate, say $10, and also total number of hours is 30. Okay, then we'll create a permanent employee, temp new, here say Smith, right? So for him it's not hourly, it's a salary, right? Say there's a $500 and 30 days. Let's print all this. That is where your toString will come in handy. Okay, say emp plus emp, that's it. And next short, and contract emp plus cmp. Permanent employee plus mp. Okay, let's go ahead and compile and execute this. So what do we do? Right click, say run emp main. So the build one which it shows, it's actually compiling and it's going to bring up the console. Perfect. So we found an error, says there is a line number 3836, the variable emp cannot be found. Let's go there, and it shows here. Why? Because it's emp1 and it is emp. Now let's go ahead and rerun this. It's doing exactly what we did through command line, only thing is with the right click of this. Okay, now if you see all this main method, from main method employee default constructor called, because every creation of this object there's a default constructor will be invoked. Okay, and also the employees, the first one the simple parent employee, and also one contract and one other permanent employee. Okay, let us see the final part of the abstraction in this, right? For example, computing this salary in this scenario will differ for contract employee and permanent employee. Contract employee is a number of days, and also it's a fixed salary. Number of days is only for the calculation part, but for a contract employee it's always number of hours into hourly rate. Okay, let's make that change. How do we do? Let's go ahead and create now the parent class will be an abstract class, you can't instantiate. So for example, emp1 will become invalid. Let's make that change, abstract. Okay, now I want to create an abstract method, abstract it will be like get salary. Okay, abstract double get salary. So this method will be an empty method, and it will start with abstract, and it will have return, and it will not have the method body. That's how this class became abstract. Okay, and also by this time we should be able to see that error is the employee is an abstract, you cannot instantiate. It's good. And also wherever you are extending, you have to give the logic of computing the salary, that you have to implement it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Double get salary, what will happen is here return hourly rate into number of hours. Okay, why does it? Because of the name. It's supposed to be a get salary. We did something, a typo. So the color changes means you're actually implemented that, so this class is good. Same way for a permanent employee you have to do it. Okay, because we have a member called salary, that is why it is not complaining. Or let's go ahead and change this to something else. Okay, let's say compute salary. Compute salary. Okay, then go back here. Done. Here it is not, right? So what you do, ideally it's the same. We can go ahead and implement abstract method. Abstract method, abstract, that's public, no, double compute salary. For them it's a return salary. Okay, so one thing to do, let's go and fix this. You can't so once, since you made employees an abstract class, you cannot instantiate anymore. emp1 will become invalid. Comment this, and also I would like to say contract emp, say salary hyphen salary emp dot compute salary, and put salary dot compute salary. Okay, let's rerun this class. It's compiling, that's a build, parsing and running it. You got to go. Okay, so the compute has been done and it is showing the value also along with your class. There's one class missing. Okay, that's a permanent employee, just we have overwritten only with the salary part. Okay, so that's it for this one. So what we have covered in summary, the basic OOPS concept of abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction. These are the major pillar of the any OOPS concept, especially for Java. Okay, thank you very much, and let us see in the next video, much more advanced concept on this. Please subscribe and comment. Thank you again.